Bitcoin to be banned by US government. Ray Dalio's shocking revelations. Bitcoin is in imminent danger. The US government could ban Bitcoin anytime soon. The billionaire investor and the world's largest hedge fund founder, Ray Dalio, predicts the chances of Bitcoin being possibly outlawed. This shocking revelation has shaken up the entire crypto world. So will Bitcoin survive the test of time, or will it be stamped down like gold? What will be Bitcoin's future? Hey there, and welcome to Investing Few. In today's video, I am back with an alarming prediction made by Ray Dalio regarding the possible future of Bitcoin. So if you want to know more, keep on watching till the end. But before we start, do not forget to smash the like and subscribe button for more such engaging content. Let's dive right into the video. Bitcoin could be outlawed. The billionaire investor Ray Dalio, who is the founder of the $150 billion Bridgewater Associates, which is the largest hedge fund in the world, has made a case that there's a good probability Bitcoin could be outlawed, similar to when the US government made it illegal to privately own gold. As Dalio points out in his upcoming book, The Changing World Order, the Gold Reserve Act of 1934 made it illegal for individuals to own gold because government leaders didn't want gold to compete with money and credit as a storehold of wealth. Something similar could happen with Bitcoin, which has surged against the backdrop of high levels of debt, low interest rates, a lot of liquidity and stimulus, and investors seeking alternatives to bonds and currencies.
Bitcoin has proven itself over the last 10 years. It proved it hasn't been hacked. It's by and large, therefore, worked on an operational basis. It has built a significant following. It is an alternative, in a sense, storehold of wealth. It's like a digital cash. And those are the pluses. Bubbles are financial assets that have imputed value. It's an asset that doesn't have intrinsic value. It has imputed value. It's whatever we think it is. And if you look at some of the bubbles in the past, a great book is Extraordinary Popular Delusions and the Madness of the Crowds by McKay, 1845 or something. But he talks about the South Sea bubble, and he talks about the Mississippi bubble and so on. It is when people love it. It's the dot-com bubble and so on. And that could be. So when you look at Bitcoin, it's a possibility. It's an alternative. Because there aren't many such assets. There are not so many assets that might have intrinsic value that can't be messed around.
Ray Dalio emphasized that although Bitcoin has proved itself in the last decade or so, but still there is a good chance that Bitcoin can be possibly banned by the government. Speaking to Yahoo Finance's Andy Serwer, the billionaire investor said, "It was very likely under a certain set of circumstances that Bitcoin would be outlawed as gold was in the 1930s. Under the US Gold Reserve Act of 1934, it became illegal for individuals to own gold because, according to Dalio, governments did not want gold to compete with money or credit as a store of value. He said debates in India about banning Bitcoin altogether were a sign of growing concerns. However, US regulators have given no indication a total ban is on the cards.
As far as the government allowing it, the history was, banks always used to exist. And then with the Bank of England, they decided that it was in their interest to have a monopoly on banking at a country. And so what we did is every country treasures its monopoly on controlling the supply and demand. They don't want other monies to be operating or competing because things can get out of control. So I think that it would be very likely that you will have it under a certain set of circumstances outlawed the way gold was outlawed. And you're watching that question arise in India today. India today is making the move to outlaw possession of it. Okay, so we have to see what that means. Now, can they do it? Now we get into the particulars. My understanding from people who are sort of in government surveillance and go on is, yes, they can understand, they can track it, They can know who's dealing with it. I don't know. Like, I'm not an expert on that. You know, there's a whole way. Is it private wallets? Is it not private wallets? How do you do this, and the other thing? I would suspect it would be very hard to hold up against that kind of action. So that's what it looks like to me.
A better alternative to Bitcoin. This is not the first time that billionaire Ray Dalio has shown concern about Bitcoin. In a January post titled, "What I Think of Bitcoin" on the Bridgewater Associates website, Dalio wrote that although he is not a Bitcoin or cryptocurrency expert, he suspects that Bitcoin's biggest risk is being successful, because if it's successful, the government will try to kill it, and they have a lot of power to succeed. Dalio also wrote that a better alternative to Bitcoin will likely come along and displace it, because that is the way the evolution of everything works, he said. I see that as a risk. Dalio warns of a stock market bubble. Ray Dalio also warned that the stock market is a bubble halfway to the magnitude of those that triggered historic market crashes like the dot-com bust and the Great Depression. He cautioned that some high-performing stocks have benefited from single-minded speculative trading focused on price, and he attributed recent market volatility to a rotation towards meat-and-potatoes companies that didn't benefit from pandemic trades as much as some tech firms.
What's happened is that a lot of new ideas, new technologies, new things come along, and they make fabulous revolutions, and they grow things, and that's great. But there's a tendency of investors to extrapolate the past and and not pay too much attention to price. And when that happens, you start to emerge as somewhat of a bubble. By our measures, the bubble is not as what it was in 2000 and not what it was in 1929, but it's kind of like halfway there if I look at the types of qualities. In other words, and so what that means from a value point of view, if you're calculating, you know, what can I realistically expect? Its expected returns shrink relative to the others. However, the kind of the meat and potatoes type of companies didn't benefit as much from those, and they're fairly stable and so on. And so that's why you're starting to see that kind of rotation. Now that can change, it can come and go in these phases, like when people get stimulus checks and then, you know, they might be hot on, you know, the exciting things and they run up again and so on, but that's going on. And of course, there's Bitcoin and other things that are going on. However, the big thing is plenty of liquidity and ridiculously low interest rates.
Bitcoin's future is hanging by a thread. You have already heard about Ray Dalio's prediction about Bitcoin, but what will be the future of Bitcoin? Will it continue to thrive or will it be over soon? To answer this question in simple terms, this year has been a wild ride for anyone invested in or even just watching the Bitcoin market. Despite that tremendous Bitcoin price fluctuation, the recent years have been years of relative maturity for a currency that, after all, has only been trading for a decade. With the mainstream acceptance that Bitcoin has received, along with tough competition from central banks, Bitcoin seems to be soaring high. But one thing you have to keep in mind is the continuous volatility tied to Bitcoin, and it can appreciate or depreciate in ways that are hard to predict or explain. We cannot say anything about where the price will be headed in the future, but one thing that seems certain is that it will be a wild ride. So buckle up. And with that, we come to the end of today's video. What do you think about Ray Dalio's shocking prediction about Bitcoin being outlawed like gold? Tell us in the comments. Thanks for watching.